Well, it's all aboard for hundreds of thousands of commuters in this city this morning, with trains running on the city's newest metro line after weeks of delays. The $21 billion project has finally received all the necessary approvals, and it's taking passengers from Chatswood in the north across the harbour to Sydenham in the south.
The New South Wales Transport Minister says today marks the biggest change to travel in the city since the opening of the Harbour Bridge. Right behind us here at our news breakfast set in Sydney this morning, Chantelle Al-Khouri is on one of the first trains making the journey, and Charlie Mills is at Chatswood Station for us this morning. Good morning both. Chantelle, what's it been like travelling on the new trains this morning?
Good morning, Michael. I'm holding on for dear life. It's been a very fast ride. We've been on this train, on and off this train for 3 hours, and we've seen hundreds of people come through so far. There have been thousands that were coming in the morning, and hundreds waiting at Sydenham Station earlier this morning at around 4:50 for that first train. The trains are going 100 kilometres per hour under the Sydney Harbour, and there are 4 minutes between each train during peak hour. We heard from the Transport Minister, Haylen, a little earlier. She says that this is a game changer for the city. Here's what she had to say a little earlier.
Incredible day for our city, and means that more people will be able to choose public transport more often, and that means it is absolutely cementing our city as a truly great global city. This is the biggest change to the way our city moves since the Harbour Bridge has opened. This train will be able to carry more people than the Harbour Bridge and the tunnel combined during the peak hour, and really takes the pressure off the rest of our public transport network, particularly the busy T1 Northern Line.
The government says that they're expecting around 200,000 people to hop on these trains every single day.
Chantelle, yes, hold on for dear life. I'm getting a bit nauseous just watching you there. You and camera operator Jack doing some great work, staying upright. Charlie, over to you. How are commuters reacting to the new line?
Well, here at Chatswood at the end of the line, it does feel a bit like Christmas morning for some of the public transport enthusiasts. I've seen them out in full force this morning. They've been taking photos of the new train, getting the chance to jump on board. I've spoken to a few who have ridden it from end to end, from Sydenham to Chatswood. So there is quite a sense of excitement here today, Michael. Obviously, this has been awaited for just a little while. We know it was supposed to open 2 weeks ago. That was delayed after the National Rail Safety Regulator didn't tick off in time. So we spoke to a few of those transport enthusiasts who are really excited to see it. But it's coming into peak hour here this morning, and what's maybe more important is that this is going to make it a lot easier for people to get to work, to get to school, to get to uni. We spoke to a few of those people a little bit earlier. Take a listen.
Really does not affect us in the slightest, but it's still super exciting to have this new thing open.
Definitely awesome. It definitely cuts down a lot of time between Sydney to get to the northern side of Sydney and the northwest. I think my favorite part would be from City to Chatswood, because that part always annoys me because of how time consuming it is and how curvy the line gets.
So as you can hear, there's some real excitement among people who will be able to make real use of this new metro line. The warning going out to people today, make sure you plan ahead, you get across the new schedules, the new system here. Lots of other people, of course, will be getting accustomed to this today. So check out the website, check out the app, make sure you know where you're going and when.
Big day for the people of Sydney. Charlie and Chantelle, thank you both.
The Palestinian militant group Hamas has rejected the latest proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza, saying it was biased towards Israel. Middle East correspondent Eric Tlozek reports.
The United States has tried to take control of these talks, telling everyone there was a final deal put to the parties and it was going to be accepted by the end of the week. Now Hamas says that's a lie. It says the US has essentially taken Israel's side in the negotiations and accepted positions that Hamas was never going to agree to, such as Israel retaining a military presence inside the Gaza Strip, retaining control of the border with Egypt, and not agreeing to a permanent ceasefire. Those things were always red lines for Hamas, and it says it cannot agree to a ceasefire under those terms. It says it did, however, agree to a proposal put forward last month, and it blames Israel for imposing new conditions in excess of that deal. Israel, for its part, says Hamas is being obstinate. The Israeli Prime Minister, though, has conceded there are some conditions upon which Israel cannot afford to be flexible. He says the pressure needs to be put on Hamas to accept the current deal that's on the table. The US is right about one thing, though, and that is there's an extreme urgency to get a ceasefire in Gaza. Not only are lives being lost every day, but the UN says there's a need for a 7-day ceasefire in order to vaccinate thousands of Gazan children from polio, a disease which has started to reappear in Gaza for the first time in decades. It's a debilitating disease that thrives in poor sanitary conditions, which are currently rife in Gaza, especially as the zone for humanitarian people, for displaced Gazans, continues to shrink as Israel issues more and more evacuation orders. Then there's the looming threat of attacks by the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah and Iran. Iran had indicated it would withhold its promised revenge for Israel's presumed assassination of a Hamas leader in Tehran, and it followed that its ally Hezbollah would also withhold its retaliation for a Hezbollah leader in Beirut. If the ceasefire talks collapse, it's presumed that those two strikes are back on the table, and also with them the threat of an all-out regional war.
Eric Tlozek reporting from Jerusalem. Back home, the New South Wales Liberal Party is planning legal action against the state's Electoral Commission if an extension isn't given after the party failed to nominate 140 candidates for local elections on time. The state's Electoral Commission has conceded a formal election notice was published 5 days before the close of nominations rather than the required 7. The Commission says, though, the deadline has been public knowledge since last year.
RSPCA Tasmania is urging the state government to ban puppy farms after the state's largest dog breeder, Tasmanian Labradoodles, was shut down last month with 239 dogs surrendered to the RSPCA. Liberal Minister Nick Street says the government agrees dog regulations need to be strengthened to ensure there aren't puppy farms in the future.
Ukraine says it has destroyed a second bridge over the Sydenham River in Russia's Kursk region. Almost 2 weeks after launching its cross-border incursion, it is the second to come down in days, further isolating Russian troops there. Ukraine's cross-border attack into Kursk marks the first time since World War II that a foreign army has been fighting inside Russia.
Police have set up a crime scene after a fire destroyed a barge which was moored to a jetty in Sydney Harbour. The fire broke out just after 7 o'clock last night and was extinguished by fire crews. A nearby wharf was also damaged and police say there were no reports of injuries.
The South Australian government says Adelaide's Crown and Anchor Hotel will be saved from development and remain a live music venue forever. It's been facing demolition with a Singaporean developer after that land. A deal reached with the developer means they'll use a nearby site instead with 10 extra stories.